Do you understand?
Let's see, are we rolling?
We are on. We are live. We are hitting it hard today. A little late, but not too bad.
Not too bad.
11:20 or 11 127 2022. Wow, 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 wow. Welcome to the Tom and Q show.
Yeah.
We're here. We're live. What a week it's been. I'm Tom. This is Q. Thank you so much for taking some time out and joining us today. We've got, well, really just mainly one thing that's pressing and most to talk about, but we will adhere to our policy to not just go down one specific road.
Yes.
Right?
We try to be cultured and versatile,
we are for everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
We are for humans.
Yes. The movie Devil's Advocate. I'm the last humanist.
Yes. So while we get started, here we are, January 27th. What a huge week. Show 51. We are 1 week away from our 1 year anniversary. It's went fast.
Yeah, well, we just celebrated the 1 year anniversary
Yeah.
because we had a vacation time,
Yeah.
things like that, but episode 52.
Yeah. A full, legitimate 52 weeks.
Yes.
Live, sometimes you can hear us, sometimes you can't hear us.
Right.
Sometimes you can't see us, right? So
When I left the house this morning, same thing I had on last week. And Jessica said, you wore that last week. I said, I know I did.
now I feel like my sixth grader.
It's expected from our audience.
Correct. And we're
So
going
with our 51 weeks, whatever is expected from them, the mustache was there. So I said,
still there.
Jessica, I do it for the viewers.
it's still there.
I'm not a superstitious guy. I don't like the mustache, but
And in 1 week's time, you
We'll
can
be
see
the dynamic duo.
I'm working on it. We'll change
Yeah.
the name of our show to Stashes in Sports. Or Stashes on Sports, right?
Yeah.
To a whole different segment, a whole different podcast.
yes.
So, we got special people to thank. White Oak Productions, best DJ here on the West Side. Hit them up. Tell a little story kind of about White Oak Productions later as we kind of get into some of the stuff we're going to talk about.
Hall of Famer.
The Hall of Famer, correct?
Yeah. I think we have to
we do have to talk about that
retitle him.
because that was last Thursday. I went to, and honestly, I think it's the first
So when he signs his name now, does he put HOF
HOF.
after the end
Yeah,
of it?
yeah. 1990. He was a graduate in 1998. HOF 1998. That was the first. That was the first stag I had ever been to outside of Coleraine High School.
Okay.
It was a good time. It was a good time. There's I didn't realize how many people from Roger Bacon. I knew a lot of people from Roger Bacon, but I didn't realize how many people I actually knew from Roger Bacon. From guys going way back to new guys to guys that were around at my age. Like,
Right.
It's funny how small the world can be sometimes.
So they play underwater polo. It's a sport. It's a real sport.
Okay.
Roger Bacon is the only organized high school team in the country that has an underwater polo team.
So would you world champion water polo team?
Yes.
World champion, undefeated,
Undefeated.
unscored upon, untied.
So that they play club teams and stuff like that, but they are the only team in high school in America that has an underwater polo team.
Stat that. Man,
Interesting, right?
well, what do you do with that? That's
Yeah, we were down watching Audrey synchronized swimming at UC.
it's a lot of
And
practices.
at the other end of the pool, it's funny. It looks like a school of fish as the people keep going down after the ball and dipping. And some guy educated me on that, and that's one of those useless nuggets of knowledge that you just hold on to that becomes useful.
Like I said, that's a whole lot of practices. Coach, who do we play this week? We don't.
Inter squad scrimmage.
Inter squad. Everybody makes it.
Bunch of guys on the other side of town. Give it a shot. We'll play them.
Local legends. Check them out. Man, he put out a bunch of new colors and new
I
stuff
love it.
today
Yeah,
that
yeah.
were awesome, including I saw the orange and black, the hat. So
Today hat, yeah.
hit them up, Tom and Q, for 15% off. Thank you, Mr. Ryan Weber. You have Fretboard Brewery. Hit them up. I bet you they'll have a great big giant party this weekend. Tons of space.
Yes.
And then the Haverkamp Foundation.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now because they've got a
Monte Carlo.
A Monte Carlo coming up, February 5th. So they are looking for volunteers to help to get involved with that. So it's $10 entry, but if you volunteer to do the work, you can get in for $5. It's a great place to take the family, so you can work for a couple hours and then go out and enjoy the night and play all of the games. So bear with me while I pull up that information. I had it.
They had we spoke with Nancy Haverkamp a few weeks ago in regards to that, and they have it's at St. John Newman Church, I believe.
Yes.
I think it starts at 6 o'clock or 7. I can't remember. We'll get the flyer out there. I know we've posted it before, but they have numerous table games. They have the horse racing, the simulcast or taped horse racing game that you can play, and then beer and food.
Yeah, beer and food.
So should be a great night.
7 to 11.
7 to 11, St. John Newman Church, which is
on Mill Road
over in Pleasant Run.
Pleasant Run Farms. Yep.
Yeah, so hit them up for sure.
And admission, snacks, refreshments, chance to win some dinero. Like I said, it's $10 to entry fee. You must be 21 years of age. If you volunteer to work, that fee's cut in half, and you can enjoy the evening.
Yeah, work a couple hours. So they're looking for volunteers. So if you're interested in that, hit us up and we'll get you in contact with the Haverkamp Foundation. They do great stuff for K-9 police officers.
Yes.
So awesome cause that we hope to do a lot more with them here in the new year in 2022.
Yeah, to highlight what they do. Knowing that they've donated 88 dogs.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's
and
incredible.
How much it costs per dog.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to give too much away because I know we're going to redo that.
Yep.
So stay tuned for that kind of coming up in the near future. And then obviously our greatest sponsor, which would be ourselves, the Talby Suggs Group. Handsome guys, tremendous facial hair, very knowledgeable, can get you where you want to go. Just trust them. They're trustworthy, nice fellas. So hit them up for sure. I'm going to turn this down just a speck because I feel like I'm yelling, and maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe. The excitement
Yeah.
of what's going on in this city right now in all season.
I wish I knew the number that it was on so I could just yell at her to go to that specific
Right.
number. But I digress. So now we're at the point of the show, right? We put this podcast
We can always
out.
do Jessica's favorite. Alexa, volume down.
Yeah.
There you go. A little better.
It's all right.
So
Not
the
yelling.
interrupting of the flow.
Yeah. So, yeah, she loves that. So, let's go to podcast stats. We put this out last week. I personally think the video is better, especially with his tremendous face. However, not everybody can listen at 11 or so, or watch at 11 or so every Thursday for the past 51 weeks. So we're going to go into it.
Right.
And find out exactly where we've been and where we're going and where we come from.
So Haverkamp echoed some of the things that we mentioned, 21 and up, because of the beverages that are there. Corner of John Gray and Mill, right across the street from Fairfield Greens Golf Course.
Yep.
So
You can't miss it. It's right on the corner. All right, so here we go. Podcast stats. I called this one last week 31 years later because we were 31 years away from being in our last AFC Championship
Yeah.
game. It was a pretty football-heavy show, which I suspect today will be as well.
yes.
So we have been downloaded 10 times,
Ooh.
which is nice.
I like the
Good-
double-digit number.
Good pick-me-up there. Oh, this is interesting. I find these, like, you can't see it from this side, but it tells you, like, what devices.
So
People
somebody
use.
loaded on a phone or
Yeah.
Okay.
So a couple iPhones, an unknown device, an Amazon smart speaker.
Nice.
So when you yelled at her name, I wonder when this person plays that podcast back.
That'd be great.
That's just a little funny joke, right? Here's more interesting stats coming at you. We were listened to twice in Chicago, Illinois. Lovely, lovely Chicago, Illinois.
Go Cubs, go.
That's your place. Speaking of Chicago, Bears just hired their
A new head
coach,
coach.
Matt
Yep.
Eberflus. Breaking news, dun dun dun, dun right? A couple times in Dayton, Columbus, Secaucus, New Jersey.
Huh.
Never heard of it.
Me neither.
Don't know where it's at. Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Very nice.
Sandy, Utah. Sandy, Utah.
I've been talking about Utah a lot. I wonder what's going on
Brains, neurosurgery, Utah.
Yeah. We're talking about our vacation and what we're going to do, kind of burn out on the beach. So why don't we go to like Salt Lake City because it's something to do, or Yellowstone. So we've been talking. Somebody's out listening.
Yeah, I like it.
So get Utah listener, give me your best sales pitch. Why should I come there for vacation?
Check these guys out. Singapore.
Nice.
They've been around a couple times. Here's a new one. Toyota Tokyo.
Ooh.
So
Is that
Japan.
where the Toyota is manufactured?
It's actually Toy. Tyoyoda. Tokyo.
You might not have, but I had 3 daughters, so we watched iCarly.
Yeah.
So they had that random dancing.
Yes. Yeah. It's a must when this song goes on. You
have to.
So thank you to all the listeners that have been worldwide, nationwide. It pumps me up every time. I was a little bit down.
So we're waiting with great anticipation. Is Hans?
No.
Hans.
No.
Sorry, buddy.
No. We hope you're doing well.
Well, yeah.
Because we know that you
Hope
would not.
Good.
You would not miss a show. Maybe, just maybe you are actually at work.
Maybe.
Hit us up next week. Hit us
Maybe
up.
that's the unknown device.
So it could be. Well, no. Maybe he is in Chicago or Sandy, Utah.
Ooh, he's traveling. He's coming to the States.
Could
there
be.
You go.
Just possible. Travel to Tokyo. I want to know what he does. I want to know a little bit more about Johann Sebastian Hans. Right? So thank you guys so much. It's awesome. It's a big pick me up and pump up when you take the time to do what we do and put some of this stuff together. So that's awesome. So really appreciate it. Speaking of podcasts, we are on Spotify.
Yes.
And so this week in the news, if you followed Facebook, legendary old artist Neil Young, not to offend anybody, but hippie Neil Young goes on, says to Spotify, if you're going to keep playing Joe Rogan, who's one of the biggest podcasts they probably have.
He's the biggest podcast on the planet.
Yeah. Take my music off. So then I followed up with an email to Spotify and said, hey, you know what? If you're going to take Joe Rogan off, you might as well take off the Tom and Q show, too.
Right.
You know what they did?
See you, Neil.
See you, Neil. Peace
Yeah.
out.
So we brought the leverage
Yep.
in that negotiation
Yep.
to keep Joe Rogan around and,
So-
and leave everything at bay for what could have been a disaster.
Every
on
vote
Spotify.
counts.
Yes.
Every vote counts.
So cheers to our support for Joe Rogan.
So
And
Joe, hit us up with a thank
Neil,
you.
we still like your music, buddy, but I mean,
Maybe a care package. We'll take it.
what cancel culture, man? That's so 2019. Like, come on.
Roll with it.
Yeah.
Roll with it. What happened to just rolling with it? Letting stuff slide. Everybody has to have an opinion, and they all stink, right?
Yes.
So speaking of opinions, we're going to talk a little bit briefly. As we've talked before, Nicole's on the school board, right? And we talked a little bit over the last few weeks about kind of what she was voted there to do.
Right.
Which is to be a different voice, which is to have different opinions or opinions of an active parent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what her beliefs is. It's not to, even though we talked about when she went to the class, it was like it should be, if you got 5 people, it should be 5-0, right? And so, she went against the mask mandate. Obviously, like we said, we support it. It's not that we're anti doing what's right. It's
Right.
just we don't necessarily support the mandate.
Yeah.
We follow the rules. We do what's asked. We don't support the mandate. It's our vote, right? So there was one of the members that voted for the mask did not wear a mask to the meeting. And so,
Oops.
yeah, so professionally, she's an extreme professional. She's extremely organized. Professionally, she emails him saying, hey, just want you to know that I was the only one that voted against the masks, and I was wearing a mask up there because I followed the rules.
That's good, and we talked about that, man.
I didn't appreciate that you didn't, right? And so, and to this guy's credit, he understood, right? And said, you know what, you're right. I should have. I don't believe in it either. And it's like, well, why did you vote for it, right? And it's like, already, and then other people have contacted her, like, hey, this kind of isn't how we do things. And I'm like, you know what? That's exactly right, and that's exactly why she is there. Because she's not going to do everything exactly the way everybody has already done things.
Yeah, and man, that's so good. We talked about it here, and there's, sorry everyone, need a drink. There's political views that I absolutely passionately disagree with.
Yeah.
And there are some that I do agree with. But I'm so thankful for the ones that I disagree with, because it refines mine, it challenges mine, and when everything's set ablaze, only the sturdy will survive in the end.
Yeah.
So you need that opposition. No matter how much you disagree with it, you need it there to meditate on, to think about, to help sharpen even truth. You need the opposition as much as you disagree with them, or as much as, we're so used to this structure of life that you get complacent, you get comfortable, and you overlook things. To have something come in and kind of shake those branches a little bit, I think it's good for any organization and any belief and any walk of life. So I'm glad to hear that's going on in Northwest Local School District, that something is there to kind of come in opposition, and at the same time being productive in that, because it's I think it speaks volumes that, hey, I voted against the mask, but because we are following rules, I will follow the rules of wearing a mask. So it's not disobedient. There's no rebellious there. These are my beliefs, but I also have to play by the rules.
Right.
And I think I'm not going to shy away from my beliefs.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to be disobedient.
Right.
It reminds me of John Kitna when he got fined. Like, the Bengals were awful. We all know that.
Yeah.
Not anymore. And
Who did?
John Kitna was wearing his hat with the cross on the front.
Yeah.
And there was not a peep.
They sold hundreds of thousands of those hats.
Yes. I was fortunate enough, we worked at Hat Zone, so we made them there, which was awesome. So he'd come in and we'd make the hats, and it was so cool to see. And then they win some games. And the NFL says, hey, you're not supposed to wear that. That's
right.
not Reebok. So he got fined, and he was asked to never wear the hat again. And he said, hey, you know what? I'm not going to wear it again. Because there are rules to play by. But I'm still going to confess my faith and belief in Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and
but I will play by your rules. And Nicole, good job to you.
It's
on many levels.
It's one of those things. Yeah, and I'm extremely proud of her, and she, I've said that to her. It's not being a sore loser in the simplest sense, right? Like,
well said, man.
It's funny that you kind of bring up that thing about Kitna, because I was listening to a podcast, just a brief little segment. It had hopefully future Hall of Famer Willie Anderson in this podcast, and the guy was interviewing me, asked him about Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco. He's like, man, he goes, amazing. He says, it's amazing. The dude was well before his time. He sat there, danced, did his thing. T.O., same deal. They get fined. What's the NFL doing now? They are doing nothing but...
You got the group celebration
Yes!
in the end zones. Every time there's a turnover, everybody runs to the cameras. They've got like the selfie cam at the end zone.
Can the NFL reimburse Ocho Cinco for his fines?
Oh,
They should.
what they used to call the NFL, the No Fun League?
No fun league. And now they're having all kinds of fun, but you can't taunt. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Unless you're giving the peace sign, then you can.
Yeah, protect the shield.
Yeah. So, I thought that was interesting. He was talking about it. And there's been a lot of conversation this week, too, as I was thinking, like, because the Baseball Hall of Fame came out. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, and sure enough, they hit the hot button. And now you have the three hot buttons, right? And I'm like, we're not going to talk about this on our show, because we said we're not going to talk about people not being in the Hall of Fame just for content.
Yep.
So we're not going to talk about those three individuals are not in the Hall of Fame and did not get voted in the Hall of Fame. So anyway, so I digress. This week, the last few days have been interesting. Okay, we were talking about this before the show. We have Carson, who's 17. He drives, and like how big of a blessing it is when you're busy. We talked about our busy schedules and our lifestyles, and to have that third car is huge.
Yes.
And we've talked about over the last, it's been December, probably 2 months now.
Yeah.
That the dealership has had Nicole's car, and we've been driving a rental. Backstory, she's driving the kids to school. Car won't go over 30 miles an hour. It just continues to rev. RPMs are going through the roof. So computer pops up, which is cool that it does that, pops up, says, hey, you got a transmission problem, right? So immediately she gets it home. We have it towed to the dealership. They'll remain nameless for the time being. And they're like, hey, we got to get with GM. We don't know what this is. We've never seen this before.
Right.
Meeting of the minds. They do everything the GM says to do. Now the car won't run, right? And this was as of about a week and a half ago. We got to put in a brand new transmission. So we're waiting on a transmission to come from GM so that we can put it in. We'll see. They say tomorrow is the day.
Mm.
So needless to say, we have 3 cars here, 2 of which are operating and working that are ours, and then the rental, which is an awesome Lexus, by the way. I can't complain too much.
Driving around that nice shiny white Lexus. It's pretty nice.
And so if you see me, it's not an attitude. It's just a rental. It's just a loaner. So Carson's leaving work, and the weather here has changed pretty dramatically. I mean, you're getting into the teens, the tens, the single digits.
So yesterday it was 6 degrees here.
Yeah.
9 degrees up in Amherst for Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are we cold, Paige? What's up with that?
So he calls me on his way home from work. He says, Dad, my truck, it wouldn't start right away. It took like 6 or 7 times to get it to turn over. I'm like, okay. I knew that he needed a new battery at some point. Getting cold, I was just kind of fingers crossed that it would work. So he gets out and trying to go to school the next morning.
We still alive?
Yeah.
Okay.
7 degrees. Car won't start. I'm like, all right, take my truck. He comes home from school. We jump the truck, or jump his truck with my truck. Starts right up. Okay, let it run for a little bit. Takes my truck last night. Takes my truck again this morning. I go out to try to start. Doesn't turn over. So right now the count is 1 Talby vehicle that is owned is currently operating. So when our show is over, I'm going to try to be a master mechanic and put a new battery in myself. Probably using a lot of Google.
Yeah.
A lot of YouTube.
Unscrew, lift. Screw.
Yeah, you would think it would be that easy, right?
Yeah.
And theoretically it is. But the problem when they build these cars and trucks these days.
Yeah. Unscrew this, remove this, set this out of the way.
Like you got to take the engine out to put a headlight in.
Yeah. On our minivan we do.
It's insane.
We went to Valvoline to get an oil change, and I said, can you change a headlight? And they were like,
yeah.
Tom, it took my breath away, man. It's
insane.
Like $78, and I was like, no, get out of here. I'll do it. So I go across the street, Advanced Auto, grab a headlight, come back, and I'm like,
should have paid the $78.
Like there's no access to it.
Yeah.
You do have to remove quite a bit. And I was like, this sucks, man. Like,
it's funny. Like I use YouTube like so much. Like especially on vehicles.
yes, so do I.
And I look at it, I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I did that yesterday. I'm like, okay, how do we replace this? And sure enough, it's like you got to remove this brace, remove that. And it wasn't as bad. But every time I go back to that one headlight where it was like I'm sitting up in the truck and had removed all this stuff to get to it. I'm like, that's insane. I've replaced 2 window regulators on his truck in less than an hour each time, which is taking off the door, doing all this stuff, making sure there's a lot to it. It's easy if you've done it once. But I did those 2 in less time than it took me to replace one freaking headlight. So that
Camp just chimed in. Bill's battery on Crookshank, for your battery. Trust me, you'll save some money
Bill's battery.
on Crookshank.
To buy a battery?
Maybe. To buy a battery, Jake?
Because I got to buy it because the car's, I'm not going to get it there and be stuck somewhere
My
without it.
windshield wipers wouldn't turn off no matter what. And they've got like the sensor for when they moist, they automatically kick on for you. And I thought that was it. So I go in settings, turn all that stuff off. And they still just go. Driving me nuts. It's completely dry and it's because it's all dry. And so I YouTube.
It's amazing.
Take this panel out, take this panel out, get under here, lay under there. And I'm like, man, all right, that's going to turn into an ordeal. Because it's the windshield wiper, the thing that you flick up and down.
Yeah.
It's basically like a plug-in. So you plug that out. So pull that out of the plug a new one in, and you reestablish everything. He said yes.
Okay. Maybe I'll check them out.
All right.
We'll see what happens there. So anyway, that's kind of what I've got going on with it being so cold. We were going to talk about.
So the life of 3 to 1, 3 people with one car. Are you getting dropped off at the mall like middle school? You getting picked like Nicole driving you around for showing? So what's?
Fortunately, she works from home, so it's like basically it's a sign in, sign out sheet for the one car. It's like I've got it from 11 to noon. Okay. Well, from noon to 1,
Yes.
So we're going to attempt that. I'm kind of waiting. It's currently, looking at my watch, it's currently 28 degrees. I had thoughts of doing it yesterday, but every time I looked at my watch, it was like 9 degrees. I'm like, we'll hold off. Let's get above freezing. Like, especially fingers aren't completely there anymore. Like, it's not exactly.
I can't reach.
Yeah. Just the tip, right? So.
Oh, that's funny.
I asked you last week, 2 weeks in a row, have you checked out Cobra Kai? Your response.
I'm in disappointment, man. Have you watched Peyton's Place or Eli's Place?
No, damn it. I'm still trying to finish Goldberg's, and I love Goldberg's.
We were so loyal at the beginning of our 52-week excursion here, 51 of those, where we were loyally committed to watching the other recommendation. And let's get back on track. Cobra Kai will be done before the Bengals play Sunday.
Speaking of Cobra Kai and mortal enemies, one of our mortal enemies, well, my mortal enemies today, is hanging up his cleats. And it makes me sad. So Big Ben Roethlisberger officially announced his retirement today. And why does that make me sad?
Because he's on the down part of his career, and we're beating the snot out of him.
Beating the heck out of him.
And we want to return the favor of the years of...
So much so that my 7-year-old yesterday goes, Dad, have the Steelers ever beat the Bengals? And I thought for a second, I'm like...
Did you cry? Did it bring it to you?
That's like, well, it has been a long time.
Like, oh, man, I'm so proud of you right now, little buddy. Oh.
So, Alexa.
Great question.
Play Don't Ever Say Goodbye.
Here's Don't Ever Say Goodbye album version by Rick Derringer on Amazon Music.
That was just total guess.
Or the end of the road from... The end of the road.
As one torch goes out, though, another one gets lit.
Okay.
Right? This song's terrible.
Yeah. So in our house, every time the girls...
If you listen to the words, here
Yeah.
I go again, singing
On my
that
own,
same
going down
old
the only road
song.
I've ever known. Ben's gone.
He's gone. He's all alone.
So we're in that next phase, and so when we were kids growing up, we had our pocket of guys, the Boomer Esiasons, I'm drawing a blank, Joe Montana's of the world.
It's a bad word.
Joe Montana. Montana. We had our flock, and then you kind of see them move on and come out, and then the next flock came in, and the Aaron, the Brett Favre's, and Aaron Rodgers, and it's all that's going on hot and heavy right now with Mahomes, the local boy here, Joe Burrow. Well, we've got a lot of
Joe Shiesty.
We got a lot of
Cool Joe.
different style quarterbacks with the Lamar Jacksons of the world, where the game's just changing as well. So it's neat to see and kind of reflect back. And I had I wasn't thinking of any of this when that came up, but you can't help but to say that like you said, the torch is passed.
Yeah.
We got a new breed of quarterback. We got a new age of the game, a new style of the game. And when Marino got in the league, he was throwing the ball, and it was just unheard of to see anybody throw like that.
Right.
And now that's the league. That's everyone. Before it was 3 yards in a cloud of dust and play great defense. And it's with Ben leaving, I guess that's where my mind goes. I'm not sad that he's gone. I don't care. I have no emotional connection there. He's a Steeler, so it is what it is. But to watch the game under the umbrella, to see it evolve into the next phase of just continuing to run and gun and then bring in the Lamar Jacksons of the world that make that hybrid athletic quarterback change in. Change of the guard.
Just hit me. We lost. We're losing Big Ben. He's not dead. Although another year of NFL football for him may have caused the death of many Steelers fans. I'm just getting my digs in now because it was constant. But Alexa, play Meatloaf. We were talking about before.
Yeah, Meatloaf passed, man.
Which was kind of completely out of the blue.
Yeah.
What's the one song?
There's Paradise by the Dashboard Light. There's that's a hilarious song. There's I'll Do Anything for Love.
Yes, that's the one. Alexa, play I'll Do Anything for Love. I'll do anything for a Super Bowl.
But I won't do that.
But
But I won't do that.
So this is our tribute to the Meatloaf.
Yeah.
There was.
I'll do anything for viewers. I'll wear a mustache.
Yes,
I'll wear the same clothes every week. I'll do anything for love.
I will do anything for a Super Bowl. That's what this is about. There was another, and I'm only drawing a blank now, but there was another celebrity that passed as well this week.
2022 has been a rough year for.
Yeah.
Dude, if I were a celebrity, I would be straight in bubble wrap.
Yeah.
And just staying at home.
Who was it? Who was it that?
They're going down.
Can't think of for the life of me who. Because it was another one. It was like Meatloaf, and then they say all that stuff happens in threes, and it was like sure.
We're at 30.
Yeah. It's like here comes somebody else. I can't think of it. So if you can think of who that other celebrity was this week, it was a pretty big name. Yeah, look that up and see who it was. And I apologize that I can't think of it, but you start rolling and you get to the top, hits the top of your tongue, and I'm like, who was it? No, yeah, it's like, duh. You lost the Golden Girls. You lost Madden. Meatloaf. Every time I hear Meatloaf, you got to go like, Ma, Meatloaf.
All right, let's see. Celebrities that have passed in 2022.
It was literally right after the Meatloaf. I keep calling him the Meatloaf because he is the Meatloaf.
I wish it would just print names. I see pictures of some, but I don't know who they are. Celebrity death, 2022, actors, actresses. Meatloaf.
Super Bowl. Sidney Poitier.
Sidney Poitier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sidney Poitier.
And big star.
Louis Anderson.
Back in that was the other one. Like
Meatloaf.
There's your three.
Andre Leon Talley, who was that famous for? Director, editor. So I don't know. Not to dismiss his value, but So Poitier passed. Yes.
How we got from Big Ben going to?
Because the time has passed. Time has moved on.
Yeah.
It's a new thing. It's that our what we grew up watching. They were older, so I don't want to go morbid on this show today, but it's part of life is passing the torch, and it's neat to see our childhood and things that we were surrounded by. And let's keep it to the quarterbacks that we grew up got to see, and then to hear Blake say, "Have Steelers ever beat the Bengals?" It's what a different time we're in right now.
Yeah,
it's so neat because I could go on and on about then and now.
Oh, without question. And what's funny is like, I wear.
We had malls. We don't have malls.
I miss the malls. There's this thing on page on Twitter. It's two of them. It's like all about the 70s and all about the 80s, and they just constantly, like, I shared one of them, information of stuff that happened in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was the Dukes of Hazzard Dodge Charger.
Yeah.
In the picture that they, like, each episode, I forget what the number was, but each episode they ran through at least, I want to say, 2 of them at minimum.
Yeah.
And it was in every episode. So they had all these
Holy crap.
Dodge Chargers painted up and ready to
For
go.
the stunts.
And they used so much. And if you read because I read it, if you read in the actual article, they actually ran out of, they couldn't get them anymore. So anytime they saw, like, somebody be driving on the street, like in a Dodge Charger, they would go and offer,
Shell out some cash.
yes,
Holy moly.
and buy it, and then paint it up and wreck it.
So unlike Back to the Future, where they only used 5 DeLoreans,
Yeah.
I mean, you would have Dukes of Hazzard shows using 5 per episode, potentially. And we're like, guys, let's just do some high-speed chase through the dirt road. Don't wreck this
Yeah,
thing.
don't
We're
wreck
out.
this one. We got one left. Well, looks like our series has got to be over. We've got no more Chargers.
Holy moly.
Hey,
I
you
did
could-
not know that. Fun fact.
You couldn't get Dodge to, like,
We're dropping knowledge with some fun facts
we
today.
got to produce this one. We got to produce this one. They'd be collector's items, man. People buy them all the time. So yeah, that was interesting. But like then they would show pictures of like the mall, and I'm like, yeah, that was the mall. You know, and I have a friend of mine who she grew up in Chicago, and we were talking about the 80s and going to the mall, and I was like, yeah, like give me my quarters so I can go to Tilt.
Yeah,
Because you remember Tilt was the
game
name
room.
of the arcade. She goes, you guys had a Tilt here? I didn't know Tilt was a series of
Really? I thought it was.
arcades.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like, you got the people in the mall like, hey, we need an arcade.
Just some local dude just
Yeah,
in
like-
the game room. Yeah.
What do you want? What do you want on the sign? An arcade. Tilt.
Don't
Oh,
tilt
okay.
the games.
Yeah. Like, maybe that's probably where it came from.
Maybe. We used to go to Gold Circle
Yeah. Well, that's what the one picture looked
because that was
just like.
closer to our house, so we'd always
Yeah.
go to that game room. And
Yeah. Gold
they had
Circle.
I think they had a better game room than Northgate. Biased, humble
Northgate
opinion
was closer.
for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But like, I remember both of them.
Yeah.
And so, like, I didn't, unless we were shopping at Gold Circle, I didn't go to the game room at that complex.
Yeah,
You know?
and you walk around the mall like, sir, I gotta call my mom. Can you got any change?
You got-
We were like homeless people. They throwing you change and you run to the game room.
And we would dig into, like, my brother and I would dig into the family's change. Be like, I got $3. All right, let's go. And it's like, and games were a quarter. And like, I was never a huge arcade guy, but we would, when we, just that, you know, when you're a kid, you're trying to be an adult.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, I want to buy something. Like your kids, they go to the store. Like Blake
Yeah,
will go to the
yeah,
store.
you
Like
get your
I want-
allowance at the end of the week.
I
and-
want to buy. Can I bring my money? Right? Because he knows like we're gonna be like, no, we're not buying that for you. Well, it's my money. Like, no, that's not how this world works. Anymore. But
right.
so that was interesting. Nostalgia. And speaking of nostalgia, 1989.
So I'm going to cut in real quick because this all started with Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
And our tribute to Ben Roethlisberger had nothing to do with Ben Roethlisberger,
At
as
all.
it should have been.
Yes.
It took us back to the fact that phases change in life. There's different seasons of life, and I remember our childhood, and that time is long gone. And Ben Roethlisberger, you're part of the cycle of life, and so long, buddy.
Yeah. So we played Meatloaf in tribute to Meatloaf while talking about Ben Roethlisberger.
I'll do anything for love, but I won't tribute Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah. I wish he was still the quarterback. I was excited for the possibility of him remaining a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. Now,
It's like Michigan fans loved Cooper for
I'm
a long time.
slightly scared to death of who will be the Pittsburgh quarterback.
Yeah, I've seen some Photoshop stuff with Aaron Rodgers in that gear. It's like,
So, I will just judge
Aaron
Ben.
Rodgers is a choke artist. I said it before the playoffs. I
So let's get-
said
okay,
it last
okay.
year, and I'm sticking with it. So you know what? Steelers go get Aaron Rodgers and let him have his good regular seasons and
So let's get into
be done.
what we talked about the greatest weekend in NFL history.
By far.
Unbelievable. And we'll cover
Unreal.
every game but the big one first. So you go to Green Bay. You've got sandwich. By the way, our predictions last week slightly off.
Yeah, oops.
Slightly off. We had teams going to places they weren't going and vice versa. So, needless to say, we did not nail those games.
The Rams are still alive, and I called that.
That's right. That's all that matters.
Yes.
It's the last man standing. So, San Francisco goes into Green Bay, and they were showing, like, I'm infatuated with just, because of my fandom, NFL coverage right now. Like, I'm watching every single show. I'm angry when there's not one on. And, like, I'm looking at the pictures of Lambeau Field, and it's snow-covered. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, that's got to be freezing. But it was cool, right? Because that's the atmosphere when you think of, like, Lambeau Field, Green Bay.
The frozen tundra.
Yeah. And then they play a game like they were on ice skates. And to have, and I'll go back to when the Packers played the Bengals here, and one of the most accurate kickers of all time missed several field goals with a chance to put them away. And from that point forward, like, everybody was bashing the special teams of the Packers. And lo and behold, what did we say? We've talked about before. They were huge favorites. You give a team courage, and it'll come back to bite you. And they let them hang around. Blocked punt, touchdown. 10-10 game. And then to have a field goal, take out the MVP, the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
In a 10-10 game.
I like Aaron Rodgers. We voted him. You know, I was thinking of the show, like, maybe we should erase one of his stars because he does this every year in the playoffs. Is he a 4-star cool now? I like Aaron Rodgers. We'll leave him at 5-star cool. He's just got a track record it is what it is. But with last year's offseason antics, and then he does it again this year where he's the number 1 seed in the NFC, high expectations. He's super happy. He loves what's going on in the world. And they lose again. Last year it was the organization's not letting me help pick who I want to be surrounded with. Like, what is his case? If he chooses to leave Green Bay, what is he going to say? Hey, it's your fault? No, Aaron. You had everything you needed.
You're going to blame the special teams now?
Yeah.
You wanted a receiver. You've got one of the best receivers in the league.
Like, what do you want us to do, Aaron?
You've got a great offensive line.
That's why owners should be owners, and general managers should be general managers, and players should be players.
Sometimes, though, do you feel, just like any regular job, sometimes do you feel that a lot of that is just for show, a lot of that is like you just want to be loved, you know, or is it just, hey, I'm just kind of tired of the environment, maybe I just need a change?
There's probably a little bit of that,
you know.
I don't know, obviously we can't speak to him directly, but I just change, man. Change is good.
And so yeah, he's going to have that's a good point. He's going to have a hard time, whether he did this or not, because I still would argue that he probably, a lot of that I think was blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
Alexa, play the best songs from 1988.
Playing Billboard songs
So,
from 1988.
oh, that's interesting. So defense coordinator Dan Quinn informs team he will remain with the Cowboys. He was a big name that was out there. So when it went through, like they were talking about, I watched the NFL. I watched the draft. They always talked about getting him a weapon.
Yeah.
You know, they had a great offense. Their line's always been good. You know, whether they're banged up or not, I don't know. Their defense is pretty solid. Their special teams obviously let them down, but you scored 10 points.
Yeah.
So,
Aaron, that was your job.
Yeah.
We did everything asked of us as ownership. Get us in the end zone.
Yeah.
You did it all year. Why? I mean, it takes me to. There's so many things overlap here, and I remember Barry Bonds when he first went to San Francisco, and he told Jeff Kent, not where he should be. He said, "Hey, I'll get us to the playoffs. You get us through."
Yeah.
because he knew his label, he knew his tag, and it's one of the famous quotes that he said, and it's that's Aaron Rodgers. Hey guys, I'll get us through the regular season. You guys get us to the win the rest, because I don't know what to think about. But anyway, amazing game. San Francisco went in. They're holding up their end of the deal to meet the Bengals in the Super Bowl again. So all the universe is coming back to this great year of 1988, and we'll see how that plays out.
So then you had the Sunday games, and you started off with the Rams at Tampa.
27-3.
And
Tom, what is surrounded by that dude's life? The aura of his life is it's going to work.
it was amazing. And you watch it, and it's like you just know it's going to happen until it doesn't.
Back to the Bengals and Green Bay game. It's when Crosby missed that kick. I was like,
Yeah.
he missed. I was beside myself. I couldn't believe it. And when Tampa well, there was a fumble late in the game that gave the ball. Akers fumbled.
Yeah.
And it gave the ball back to Tampa. And I did the same thing. I did the same exact emotion. I was like, I could not believe what just happened. And Tom is Tom, and Tom did what Tom did, and here we go. And it's like,
It comes down to what?
and it's and it's neat to see the class. So we'll talk about that, man. They lost, and the class that Tom Brady handled himself with in that loss, and the class that
I kind of differ on that.
Allen handled.
That I'll get to.
Right.
But I kind of differ on Brady just a little bit, because Brady's kind of got this competitive stigma, baby whiner,
Yeah.
right? And so immediately he was all in. All of a sudden he doesn't complete the comeback. I might retire.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
It's like you were all in.
Yeah, my mind went here with Aaron Rodgers, and in our line of work, it seems like everything I do now is a negotiation.
Yeah.
Like every conversation I have is some form of negotiation. And I thought Aaron Rodgers last year, all of his off-field antics were part of his negotiation.
Yeah.
I'm going to get leverage, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to get what I want, and it's all a form of negotiation. So Tom Brady right now is negotiating. And it's, okay. Negotiate, see what you get.
But what happened to the Tom Brady that wanted to play until he was 50?
Well, he still wants to play. I think he still wants to play. Bad. But he's looking at Tampa and saying, what's going to happen in Tampa next year? Am I going to be surrounded by everything? Is everything going to stay the same? Do I have a chance to win in Tampa again? I read an article somebody wrote that he's kind of pressing toward ending his career in San Francisco. That's where he's from. He grew up. He was a huge 49er fan. Could you imagine if Tom was on Tampa's team this year? They would have went undefeated. Their defense is nasty, and they are really good. So if he's putting himself out there like, I don't know what I want to do. We got some contract stuff. I might retire. That puts Tampa in a situation to make a decision.
Right.
We can't let him retire. We want something for him. What's one Super Bowl worth to San Francisco? Is it worth a pick? Is it who's San Francisco's backup quarterback?
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance. Is he the future in Tampa? Can we get?
So I've heard the same thing about Rodgers.
Right. So is there anything we can do to make that trade?
So from a San
Tampa's
Francisco perspective, though, you traded for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yep.
You didn't like Jimmy G after he led you to a Super Bowl. Then you draft another quarterback because you're not really big on Jimmy G. And now Jimmy G's got you in the NFC Championship, and you're still talking about, is Jimmy G the guy?
Right.
Yeah, he's the guy.
Right.
So why would you, if you're San Francisco,
If his jersey sales aren't what they want, if it's a marketing, it's so diluted.
it's insane
Yeah.
to me. Like, the dude may not be perfect. Brett Favre wasn't perfect.
Alex Smith.
But all they do is win.
Yes. Yes.
He's a Super Bowl quarterback, potentially 2 times. You know who hasn't been there 2 times? Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
But he's going to win the MVP. I'm not saying that Rodgers' season wasn't great. What I'm saying is, like, it's crazy to me how big of a role quarterbacks play and how, like, just, I don't want to say delusional, but, like, how over the top is the thinking that the guy that leads you to 2, we'll just leave it at 2 NFC championships in the last few years,
Isn't good enough.
isn't good enough.
I'll never understand.
I was thinking about that when they were talking about that before and talking about kind of the Hall of Fame. I'm kind of a pseudo Eagles fan a
All
little
right.
bit. As the
Interesting.
Bengals were,
News to me.
as
Didn't
the
know
Bengals,
this, but I like it.
you know, kind of 90s,
Randall Cunningham.
early 2000s. Yeah. It was like, well, they're out of it. I'm going to root for the Eagles. So I just kind of always followed the Eagles because I did love Randall Cunningham. And then the
Reggie
Bengals
White,
draft
yeah.
Achilles Smith. The Eagles draft Donovan McNabb. Those two, and the Eagles coach was Andy Reid.
Yep.
Those two programs went in complete opposite directions to where Donovan McNabb leads them to 4 straight NFC championships and doesn't get to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Donovan McNabb can't do it. Can't do it. Can't do it. Maybe you should put some pieces around those guys
Yeah.
to better ensure that they can get their job done and stop putting so much daggone pressure on these quarterbacks.
I agree with that.
'Cause
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Not everybody is Tom Brady. And Tom Brady
Correct.
didn't exactly do it alone.
0%.
I think he's the greatest of all time,
I agree.
but he didn't exactly.
So that man in the arena really highlights the Patriots' defense and how great of a defense they have for such a long time, and nobody talks about that.
Right.
And it's, I'm not going to go on my defensive rant that I normally do, but there is a lot to a good running game, a 4-minute back that can end a game for you and manage the clock so mistakes don't happen. There's a lot to that quarterback position, and when you have chemistry, leave it alone. If you're making it to the NFC Championship games, like, leave it alone, and sometimes it's a personnel change. Sometimes it's a coaching change, more of a creative offensive coordinator.
Sometimes it's also just luck.
Sometimes the ball bounces certain ways.
Yeah.
So you have, look at all Michael Jordan in his run. Look at all of the greats that sometimes you're just in football at the same time that Tom Brady's in football, or you're in basketball at the same time that Michael Jordan's in basketball. And it is, you know what?
The Bills didn't move on from Jim Kelly.
No. Or Thurman Thomas.
No, they kept those guys together.
Yeah, and they kept doing it. And I don't know.
They didn't win a Super Bowl, but
so the Colts had their run with Peyton Manning, and they couldn't get over the hump. They changed the head coach to Dungy, and they got a ring.
got a ring.
Tampa was flirting with a lot of Super Bowls and
Good
AFC,
point.
and then had Dungy left there.
Yeah.
Right. So it was just, and it goes to our point with Aaron Rodgers earlier. Sometimes the setting, it just gets stagnant, man. And Dungy, who kept getting them far enough, he goes to a different like-minded people, and they win a ring. And Gruden comes out here and wins a ring. So it's not always the quarterback.
Yeah.
I think we spend too much time on that. And we were talking before the
Well, it's
show.
funny you say that because talking about Gruden, when he was with the Raiders originally,
Yes.
got to the Super Bowl, or got to the year before, got to the AFC Championship.
The whole league
couldn't
did that.
get there. He gets traded to Tampa, wins a Super Bowl against the Raiders.
100%. No quarterback changed anywhere.
Right.
Just we've got a good thing going. Let's get a different mindset in here, some fresh set of eyes. And you know what? You're a great coach, but we just need a different lens looking at this, because we're all looking at it the same way. And it's not the quarterback. It's not the guys on the field that they're doing what they're doing. It's Allen Iverson playing a game that he loves. Let's talk about practice. So I think but we're not general managers in the NFL cutting those checks and doing those things. But yeah, I agree with you, man. I think the quarterback position, and bear with me here, is an overrated position.
So, and that leads into the nightcap on Sunday night.
Yes.
Which is a direct opposite of what you said.
Well, maybe.
Because both of those quarterbacks were unbelievable.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Josh Allen threw to a guy in the end zone 4 times, and I don't think that guy had ever scored a touchdown before. Josh Allen runs the football. I mean, that dude is doing everything he can to get it done. Yeah, Mahomes has some weapons, but I see now why when the Bengals first played the Chiefs.
I knew Mahomes was athletic, man. I didn't know he was the escape artist that he was. I knew all that, but man, he was. Buffalo's defense had him dead to rights so many times, and it's just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. It's like he waits till that very, very last second, and then all of a sudden the ball leaves his arm.
Yeah.
It's like somebody's wide open.
I knew it was there, but at that level, I couldn't. I couldn't believe it.
It was a tremendous game, and to hit on your point from earlier, to watch Mahomes sprint down when the game was over to find Josh Allen, and then those two embrace.
That was awesome.
And the respect that those two had for each other. It was, and I think this is a conversation for another day, but, you go into overtime. The overtime rules are what they are.
Yep.
Right? But it was literally like playing Madden football. Whoever got the ball last, or even better, Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah.
You're playing the Chicago Bears versus the Raiders. Bo Jackson versus Walter Payton. It's whoever gets the ball last is going to win.
Yep.
And the amount of respect that everybody gave each other in that game, just in general, talking about how, like, instant classic, the amount of
100%.
points scored, going down the length of, going 50 yards in 13 seconds. Why in the world didn't you squib kick?
Somebody, you do kick off the Tyreek Hill. Yeah, 100%.
Tackle him.
Right. I'm kicking off to him because he's got 2 options, man. Return the kick because it's in play, use clock, or call a fair catch. And if he's going to choose to return that kick, I'm sure him and the special teams coach had that conversation. You better be right. Because those seconds are valuable. If you choose to return this, you better be right. And that's going to plant the seed in his mind of, if I choose to return this, I better be right because 13 seconds is not a long time.
No.
That's 2 plays.
No.
And I just used one.
One if you're the Cowboys.
Too soon.
Yeah,
Not really.
right?
Who cares? So, you got to make a right decision, Hill. You're returning it, and the special teams would go all in on a return. The Music City Miracle, the Cal Stanford game. Like, guys, if we're doing this, we're all in on the return.
Yeah.
If we're not, we're not. So you got 1 or 2 choices in that, and then the prevent defense. I made a Facebook post. It only prevents you from winning. Why on earth? So if Tyreek is on your mind, I can't kick to him. Then Tyreek's on your mind.
You should be covering it.
Why do you give him a
If
10-yard
that's
head
possible.
start? Why do you give him a 10-yard head start with nobody even looking at him?
Same thing with Kelsey. Like, they have 2 guys that are going to catch the ball.
Let's give 2 of the best receivers in the game right now a 10-yard head start before anybody even touches them to build up as much momentum. So you catch it, you take 3 more strides, you're 19 yards up the field.
Oh, man, we didn't see him. What? What do you mean you didn't
How do you
see
see him?
him? We should have 4 guys seeing those guys, right?
So, absolute breakdown.
It was a great game, but that loss for the Bills, going back to their Super Bowls, looking at it, there's so many similarities between our towns and our sports teams.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And it's like we have found like just unbelievable ways to lose games.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking...
if we'd have met them in the AFC Championship game, that'd probably been one of the ugliest football games because both teams would have been like, we're supposed to lose this.
Yeah.
And we can't figure out how to lose
it would have probably been a giant hug fest out there.
I feel you.
Like, you know what? Like, it's funny because going back to the last game of the regular season where the Raiders and Chargers were playing, and everybody was talking about how the game could have ended in a tie.
Yeah.
Like, if it was the Bengals and Bills, it would have been just straight knees the entire time. Like,
yes.
You know what? You guys haven't done this in a while. You haven't done this in a while. I love you, man. You know what? I love you too. Let's just take this to the bank.
Oh, Bud Light commercial. I
Yeah.
love you, man.
And so, that's funny that you brought that up. So, we were watching again, and we'll get into this, but we were watching again this week. We went to YouTube, and we're watching the 1988 divisional round where the Bengals played the Seattle Seahawks when they were in the AFC.
Yeah, the AFC, yeah. Steve Largent,
And the-
Dave
yeah.
Craig.
And the Bengals just kicked their ass. Like, I mean, I sat there because the week before we watched the AFC Championship game, so we kind of went backwards. Watching this game, I'm looking at, I'm like, oh my God. Like, they absolutely destroyed the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, they were really good. But then they would go, like, watching on YouTube, they would go to commercials. And it had the Bud Bowl. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the Bud Bowl. And it ended up being the first Bud Bowl. Was that year, was the first one. I'm like, man, what the heck happened to the Bud Bowl? Remember? They got, like,
Yes.
Budweiser versus
Budweiser
Bud
or
Light.
Bud Light, yeah.
It was like, line up.
They were creative, man. They were good commercials.
Especially
Why did
since,
Bud Light, Budweiser. I know.
well, they went to
I
the
know you-
Frogs,
Yeah. And they went to the horses.
the horses. But they always have classic
Yeah.
commercials.
The
Budweiser.
Clydesdales, that's the word I was looking for.
I took a marketing class in college, and that was one of the things we were working on and we're focusing on were Super Bowl commercials.
Yeah.
And like how much back then they were super expensive, not nearly what they cost today,
Right.
but like we would break down and like you'd look at it, like it was so fun. You're just watching commercials and like how they did, like the irony of them and what they did and how much money they cost and like.
And here we are 33 years later talking about it.
And yeah, and like who, like, I think it was Pepsi had the Super Bowl. Yeah, Pepsi had the Super Bowl. Coke had the Olympics.
Yep.
And they never coincided.
Right.
So much so that even back then, they had cigarette commercials. Like,
Yes.
just the graphics on the TV were terrible. Like, my kids walked down, like, what are you guys watching? It's like watching, like, it's all fuzzy.
Where's the beef?
Yeah. I'm like, it's because that game has never been put on a TV this size, one.
Yeah.
So they cut it off. It's like this big. Like, but it was nostalgia, right? And
Yes.
talking about nostalgia, we have superstitions. One of my
Yeah.
superstitions is
I'm just pleasing the crowd. I don't really have any, but I'm all in.
I try to do, knowing that they have one every week, I'm trying to do as many of the same things as I possibly can.
That's hilarious.
All the way down to, that's why 3 weeks in a row, I have sported my Boomer Esiason jersey.
I was going to get a David Fulcher jersey of that era to wear it just so we could.
How about, speaking of jerseys, you can't find a Bengals jersey. You can't find an Evan McPherson jersey.
No.
Yeah, they,
Paige wants a jersey because she's up at school and all the friends are watching the games and everything, and some of her teammates are from Buffalo area, so they're all in. And Paige was like, I need a Bengals jersey. So we're like, all right, let's check them out. She's like, I just kind of want a T-shirt. I don't know what jersey I want yet. So she's looking at like Bengals shirts, and we were just trying to find her something, and she ended up not getting anything. But I was mentioning players that she should get. Like, who do you want? She was like, should I get Burrow or Chase? And I was like, everybody's got those. I'm not a big offensive guy, so I'm going to plant my seed from a parent into your head.
Uh-huh.
Said, but McPherson, that'd be a sweet
No.
jersey. She said, oh, yeah, but she at this point, she wants a Hubbard jersey.
So you said you want to be different. Well, all the McPherson jerseys are sold out.
Yes.
The Bengals Pro Shop has said we don't plan on getting any of them in soon. So, contradicting what you said, everybody's apparently going to have a McPherson.
jersey next year.
Yeah.
So
We had
she's a Hubbard. That's where she is now. Is going with Hubbard.
The game was going on, and a friend of ours that was over here, it was after like McPherson's first or second kick. She went online and bought a McPherson jersey right then.
Nicole did?
No,
Oh, who did?
a friend of
Okay.
ours. And so apparently it's going to be in for this weekend. So going back
Nice.
to superstitions. So like I try to do the same thing. Like as frustrating as it may be with the mess, we continue to have our Bengals Super Bowl party
Yes.
week in and week out. And I was nervous about, okay, so-and-so can't make it. Like, what do you mean you can't make it? You need to be here. You got to sit here. Or like, okay, well, I'm free this week. I can make it to the party. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mentioned it, Jess. I wonder what the Tobys are doing. You want to go? And she was like, I don't know. I was like, man. And then I was thinking to myself, like, maybe I shouldn't, because it would just throw off the balance.
No, it's wide open at this point. Because at this point, we figured they're playing with house money. So every week we're doing something new.
All right.
Right?
That is the superstition.
That is the superstition, right? It's like, it's just ever changing, right? So we split into two parties. And then when it was over and they won, it was like, it's one
Back
party.
to one.
You know? So
Yeah.
we had these superstitions. So I've been wearing this, it's yellow, smoke-stained Chad Johnson jersey from like 2007.
All right.
I've been wearing it since the first time they played the Chiefs. I did not wear it in the pseudo preseason game against the Browns.
You right?
And this jersey is 4-0.
All right.
I've continued to wear the same shirt underneath it every week. I have worn the same pair of jeans every week, the same gym shoes, the same color socks, because when you have multiple colors, it's kind of hard to determine. Same thing, kind
Pin
of
those socks to the wall.
underwear, kind of the same.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then before the game, I like to get hyped up. I play all the old hype videos, which our boys are on another guys hype video. They made it to the Bengals hype video.
Yeah.
There's another guy out there that made one. I guess he's pretty famous. They made it to that.
Nice.
Yeah, so they're all over the place. On top of our Titanic, we didn't make the Titanic video. We just happened to share it. But that that went crazy.
What a pleasurable experience for the Tom and Q page, man. It was we share podcast stats, and I'm going to share some of those stats of 22,000 views.
That's amazing.
It reached over 35,000 people and 364 shares.
What's amazing about that is when I first watched it, I'm like, that song was already playing in my head. Like, that was the feeling, The feeling was just that, and it was just like, you're floating on cloud nine, and we're all standing around here like we were talking before the show. It's like you go into the game, we have these superstitions. I went back in time, we're watching old videos, I'm watching hype videos, and the game kicks off. And it's like, we're looking before, and we're like, okay, Derrick Henry, over under 86 rushing yards.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do.
We're thinking to ourselves, like, man, if he only gets 86 yards, Bengals win the game. They shut him down to 62.
Yeah.
The first week, the wild card round, they played the Raiders. We placed a bet on Derek Carr to throw an interception. Was the last play of the game. This week, keeping in tradition, we placed a bet on Tannehill to throw an interception. Was the first play of the game.
Yeah.
So we hit 2 plays in a row, and that play alone, I've been a huge Jesse Bates detractor. Now it is my superstition to be a Jesse Bates detractor.
All right.
So, Jesse, don't take it personal, but you suck.
I like Jesse Bates.
It's not personal.
Right.
But the more that I continue to tell him that he sucks, he hears me.
Yes.
And does the opposite.
Yes.
And steps up in another big role, picks off the first pass of the game, and completely changed the outlook.
Yep. And which is good, buddy I watched the game with, he had a great point. He said, so the Bengals technically started the game with the ball, and then they come back at halftime and start the second half with the ball. So you get to start both halves with the ball,
and I think
which is huge.
We'll see a lot of that this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But we talked about, I call it the Madden advantage.
Yep.
Right? Where it's like, who gets the ball at halftime, right? Like, and what's that score? When they first played the Chiefs and they were down 14 and they started marching their way back, I'm like, and you're looking at it, it's like, okay, if we can get a stop here, we can tie it and then get the ball to start the second half, get another score. Now all of a sudden we have the advantage back.
Yes.
Right? And I say we because right now it is we. It is, everybody here is just, it's been awesome. Everybody's been all in. Freaking love it. There's nothing like this town when things are rolling.
Did you read Huber's.
I saw it, but I didn't
Man,
read the whole thing.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's. I didn't know what to expect, but he just derailed and he was just talking about because he grew up here.
Yeah.
And he remembers going down to Riverfront Stadium and the old stadium, watching games there, and talking about the blue seats and the red seats and the yellow seats, and like he did a great job of really taking you back to an era and a time that was up till 05 to 15, that 10-year window, and then to where it is now, and just kind of what it meant. And I think he did a great job at writing it to where it was. You saw it through. I think we're all guilty of like they're a professional athlete or they're a celebrity. So do they view life the same as us? I think we're all a little bit guilty of that.
Yeah.
Because they just live a different lifestyle.
Well,
and it's
and
like
plus,
to read that, it's like that's from a true Cincinnatian's eyes.
Well, you look at him and a guy like Sam Hubbard. I'm sure it's a lot of kids' dreams to grow up and be a professional athlete.
Yep.
And to be a professional athlete in their town. And it's like you grow up being a fan first. Like you don't like in reality the percent chance that you're going to be a professional athlete regardless of what town it is is so small that you are a fan first. So these guys that have grown up here, and I always want to ask their perspective, so that kind of answers some of that questions. But I wanted to ask guys like Rocky Boyman or Tony Pike, guys like that have grown up here. I don't know. I'm assuming that they were fans of the Bengals, but then don't ever end up playing here. Like, where does your fandom go, when you're playing?
Oh, yeah.
Because for me, that would be really, really hard to give up.
Yeah. To be in Tennessee and come back and play the Bengals. Like, I love this team.
I love this team. But
I love this town.
I think at that point,
but I got a job to do.
I think that at that point that becomes the job, right? But in the same sense, like if it's not the job, if the Bengals are on Monday or you're playing a game on Monday night.
So it's interesting because it's open and it's out there that Tom Brady is a 49ers fan.
Well, do you come back like you retire or you're done playing? Do you come back and all of a sudden like, hey, I'm a Bengals fan again? And they talk like that, like on the radio. And stuff.
I've heard Rocky stuff and he puts he's.
Yeah.
I'm a Bengals fan.
Yeah, and
I'm a fan of Cincinnati. So I wonder if it's just a fan of the town. So a lot of my allegiance lie in people that I know. So I know when I used to travel to Canada a lot, obviously hockey's more popular in that country than it is down here. So during the Olympics, I knew a lot of people in Canada at the time because I worked back and forth. And it was kind of like, man, I'm kind of cheering for Canada to win the cup because I'm thinking of my friends Paul, my friends Doug, Debbie, and Jeff, and all those people up there. Like, man, it'd be so cool for them. I have no skin in this game, so I think of my friends that are loyal. And I was like that with the Bengals for a long time, and it's like, I want to see the Bengals win just because of Tom, because of the Marizzis, because of Saul, because of, like, everybody I know that's so passionate about the Bengals. It made no difference in my life, but I'm cheering for my friends to taste that victory more than I am an organization. So maybe, I mean, that might be a thought is when Rocky goes down and goes to Notre Dame and then goes on in Tennessee and he looks back at Cincinnati, and it's just like all of his parents, his uncles, his friends. Like, man, I want them to win.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, that interesting perspective, for sure. It's been tremendous, and I remember it as a kid to an extent, and like my kids, like.
Where did you watch the '89 Super Bowl?
At my house.
I was at Heis's house in the basement with the Gromes.
So I had. My dad went to a Super Bowl party, and my brother, myself, my mom stayed with us because it was a school night, knowing that the Bengals were in it, what kind of raucous stuff could take place at a Super Bowl party. We stayed home, but my mom let me invite my good friend at the time, Mike Stoller.
Yep.
And we sat in my living room on a tube TV, the tube TV, and this song's perfect. Could have been so beautiful.
Oh yeah, both of our brains chimed in.
Debbie Gibson. Could have been so beautiful if it wasn't for another mortal enemy, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, and John Taylor. So, getting ahead, Would I love a third shot at the 49ers?
100% yes.
Hell freaking yes.
100%.
And this is like, see, this is where my mustache is starting to take over because I'm starting to get like,
Get a little feisty.
yeah,
Yes.
so I'm picking up the steam. And so that game's going on, and the other night, and like we're getting fired up. And it's like field goal after field goal. So it's like, and then all of a sudden, Bangledom sets in, where it's like we couldn't keep that advantage long enough, and they've got the ball going into field goal range with 20 seconds to go. And I'll be daggone if Tannehill didn't throw a bad pick to give the Bengals the ball at the 50, and I went, oh my God, they're going to, like, this doesn't happen.
Right.
Like, it was completely going the other way. They drive down the field. Mike Hilton with, I would argue, the biggest play of the game.
Yeah.
When he jumped